Hey, what's good, everybody? It's me, your hero, Benjamin Banks, and you're watching Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Joining me, as always, is my co-host from the Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks podcast, Terrific T, Double OT, Trav, the boy, the third. Hey, bro, I added some spunk to that, man.
It's been a while since you called me Travie boy.
I know. Well, you told me to stop doing it, and I'm in a good mood right now because we have a very awesome guest joining us today, and that is professional voice actress Ratana. How are you doing today?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Shout out to Brittany Cox because she's a friend of the podcast, and
we love Brittany.
Everybody loves Brittany, and we love Brittany too. So thank you so much, Brittany, for helping us out. And of course, as everybody can see, we're a man down. D, he's in space again. It's like every year he goes to space to save the universe from the ultimate destruction. So
wait. Is D like a Green Lantern?
Are
we not allowed to know this? Should I?
I mean, it's just like we don't talk about Bruno. We don't talk about what D does.
All right.
Move along real quick.
Okay, that's fine. Anyway, so thanks for having me.
Hey, you're welcome. And just to let you know, D, he's a huge Genshin Impact fan. So we're going to talk about that when we get, later on in the interview. But before the interview starts, make sure that you like this video, you subscribe to the channel, and you hit that bell button so that way you're always notified when we have new content here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. And as D always says, podcast link down in the description. Like, follow, subscribe, and Trav, hit them with your tip of the day.
Hey, I'm just letting you know, real Naruto fans, they watch the filler, Banks, right there. That's the tip of the day, watch the filler.
This guy. Hey, look, I had the choice to not watch the filler, so I'm not going to watch the filler. I mean, that's just what it is. So let's go ahead and get into this interview. So, Ratana, again, thank you so much for joining us. Something that I always ask all of our guests up here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks is, what is your origin story? Every hero or villain has one. So tell everybody who you are.
My origin story. So I was born in Detroit, Michigan. Hey. I'm a happy little Midwestern girl, and I come from immigrant parents. So, have all of the expectations that comes with. And I like to tell people that I was a good little Asian girl until I wasn't. And that means I did all the things. I went to school, I studied, I got good enough grades. Not Asian parent good grades, but good enough. Yeah. And, went to college, studied, practical things. And I had a career in corporate America. And, one day I had kind of checked all of those boxes, and I looked down the hallway at the corner office and, who was occupying the director, the VP office. And I was like, man, I like my job. I'm good at my job, but I don't know if I want their job. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge reckoning moment for me. So if I don't want their job, and I've worked all of this time for that job, what do I want? And it kept there was a little voice inside that just kept nagging me that it was performing and acting. And that was the thing I'd wanted to do when I was 17, when I was a teenager, and kind of tamped down on that because I had expectations. And so they were, I followed my parents' dreams. And then I was like, okay, well, what are my dreams? My dreams are to be an actor. And I was fortunate. I was now fast forward living in Los Angeles and working in my corporate job. And in my hobby life, somebody who was a good friend of mine, one day we're just casually chatting and he goes, I also work in corporate America. I have this steady 9-to-5 job. But you know what I really want to do? And I said, what? And he said, voiceover. And it was like all of the light bulbs went off in my brain at the same time. And that just started the whole ball rolling. So we would talk. I would get really fascinated by what he was doing. And finally he was like, just stop asking me questions. Just shut up and take a class already. So I did. I took a class. And then that became like 2 classes. And then that became classes every night of the week after work. So then it was, voiceover and acting and improv and singing and anything I could do to just build my craft until I was able to make demos and build a very rudimentary website and, get the word out there that this was a thing that I wanted to do. And I was fortunate that I got agents, and that begat, auditions and opportunities, and I started booking. And then about 10 years ago now, I had the opportunity to leave corporate life for good, and do this pretty much full time. And so that is my villain/hero origin story, depending on what day of the week you catch me.
Trav, this is the second time that we've had a guest up here, give a hero/villain origin story. And it's never like, hey, I'm an anti-hero. It's I'm a hero or a villain. And I love how you put that spin on it at the end where you said it depends on the day of the week.
It really does.
No, but hey, that was an amazing origin story. And like, there's so much stuff that you said that I want to piggyback off of. But, some of the stuff that you said, doing theater, improv, getting into voice acting, leaving, the corporate world behind to do the thing that you love. It's like you have like a lot of tools in the toolbox. And I think that that's always awesome when it comes to, the things that you want to do in life. And I feel like with improv, just like with doing stand-up comedy, that goes into voice acting. Same thing with theater. Trav, he's our theater guy. And, Trav, I want to pass the ball to you because I know that you love always asking theater questions. So go ahead and ask your theater questions, bro.
Well, before I get into the theater question, I want to piggyback off of the corporate situation because I know you do offer consulting as part of your service. So is consulting like the stuff you were doing before, or?
I was working for a company. So I was working, steady paycheck, getting paid twice a month, the whole thing, 9 to 5 job. I started consulting when I left corporate life. When I left the 9 to 5, it was just sort of a thing that I could do that was an offshoot of the analytical side of my brain. Right. And so, it's there for people if they need it. And if not, I do the other things. But I consider myself a storyteller first and foremost. And what feeds my soul and usually what feeds my stomach is also acting.
I love that. And I saw some of the theater pictures and like, did you grow up a theater fan or?
I loved theater. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I grew up, I loved musicals. So I grew up watching like Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals with my dad and my mom. And we grew up, so in Detroit, we're about a 5-hour drive from Toronto and equal distance to Chicago. And so whenever we could, I would beg them to get tickets to like a theater in Toronto, and we would go see musicals over there, or in Chicago, or even in Detroit when the tours would come through. But I loved theater. I loved everything about it. So, when I'd have my little library card and I would take out all of the different CDs.
I remember those days.
DVDs and yep. And I would watch them all. This is like my poor parents. They were probably so sick of me watching and listening to stuff on a loop, but
that's how it was. I mean, like,
that's how it was.
If there was a book or a movie or something that you really enjoyed, and I remember my mom, she used to get mad when I used to check out the same stuff all the time. I'm just like, well, Mom, I love this. I mean, Trav gets on me all the time when I always talk about watching the same anime over and over, because I mean, if I really love something, I'm just gonna continue to keep doing it. So
right, but then you discover something new every time, right?
Exactly. Just like whenever I watch, when I was watching Encanto, and it's like I was always discovering something new. But now it's like I still love Encanto, but it's like my love has went over to Turning Red now, and
oh my god, that was so good.
Yeah, it was so good. And one of the things that I wanted to piggyback and ask you, because you was talking about growing up and, how your parents, they wanted this from you, they wanted that. And one of the things that I loved about Turning Red was the representation for Asians in that movie. And like something that Domichi was talking about was when she was coming up, it was like her parents, like they were on her about like having good grades and, following in their footsteps and whatnot. And I just love how you see in this movie, her telling her story where it's just like, hey, like, I understand that you guys want me to do this, but at the same time, it's like, I'm a little kid and I want to have fun. So you know, the stuff that you were saying, like, it just made me think about the movie Turning Red. So I wanted to ask you, you know, did you see Turning Red?
I did. A couple of times, actually.
Hey, so are you a Four Townie?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. Hey,
Is that even a question?
We be singing the songs up here. So it's
do.
like, so hold on. Will you sing with us if we start singing?
I don't know the harmonies, but I can sing a little bit of it. I only know the I don't got nobody.
I like you. Man, I can't think of the lyrics right now.
I know, right? I'm
blanking. Nobody like you. I have friends and I have buddies. It's true. But they don't turn my tummy the way you do.
I love that line.
Nobody like you. Trav, hit the part.
Bro, I don't know that
this
one.
guy.
I know the other song, bro. I picked the wrong one.
Bro, this is just like Jason Marsden all over again, man.
Oh, no.
You picked the wrong one.
But I mean, like, when you watched that movie, like, did you, you know, see any similarities to when you were coming up?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I feel like every kid who grew up in that era, like, you know, every Asian kid anyway, probably identifies in some part with Mei or even with Priya. I feel like I was probably more of a Priya, but I definitely had Mei tendencies. So, you know, I was all in my books. I'm wearing my contacts now, but my glasses are like Coke bottle thick. You know,
what to do around here,
right? And but that idea of like parental expectation and, you know, you need to be very accomplished and get all these things ready so that you can go to a good university and you can graduate and have a nice steady job. Because, you know, when your parents sacrifice everything and leave a country and everything they ever knew with, you know, whatever money they had in their pocket, they took a huge risk. And they don't, like, even though they did that, they don't want that for you.
Right.
And it took me, I think, until I was an adult to realize, like, oh, wait, I'm not supposed to follow that example. Like, what I learned from you is that it's okay to, like, try things, you know, to take that risk, to go to a new country, to go and, you know, try something that is scary and see, you know, if it works or not. And if not, you now have the resilience that you can go back and go back to the day job, or, you know, go back to school and then qualify to do something that will get you a day job. But to me, it was very much there. Like, you know, you're not going to Harvard or Yale. What's wrong with you?
Right.
Now, what's crazy is, I don't know if you've seen this movie, but it's like, you know, in Turning Red, we see how Mei's family is. It's like, you know, they're running the temple and whatnot, and their family is very successful. But then in this movie that I recently just watched called Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, that's on my list of things to watch.
It is a really good movie, but it's the opposite of Turning Red, though. And it's more for adults, of course. And when you just see the main characters, because I don't want to spoil it for, you know, the listeners and viewers, and I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's a really good movie. But it's the complete opposite of Turning Red. Trav, would you agree with that?
To an extent, it still has a lot of the same themes, but as far as, you know, what the family's going through, you know, it's a little bit different than Turning Red. You know, the daughter's kind of grown already versus Turning Red, where she's coming of age. And yeah, but they explore a lot of the same themes, and it's really sugar-coated and all this multiverse stuff to get you into what the movie's really about.
Yeah.
You know, the message behind the movie. And it was my favorite movie of the year so far. It took Batman as my number one.
Wow.
So far this year. So.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, it's a good movie. If I could compare it to anything, it's a mixture of The Matrix and Kung Fu Hustle in a way.
Oh my God, I loved Kung Fu Hustle.
Yeah, Kung Fu, it's a classic.
That's the Kung Fu Hustle comedy.
Yeah,
I love
it has
it.
The Kung Fu Hustle. Yeah, and it's,
okay,
it's like you
see
wouldn't
that.
expect that, you know. And when it comes to A24 films, I really don't like watching trailers, because I always feel like when you watch the movie, it's always a surprise. So when I was watching it, I was like, man, you know, I'm glad I didn't watch the trailer for this, because it was such an amazing movie. So I highly recommend it. You know, I wish that I had 4 hands so that way I could give it 4 pinkies up, but I can only give it 2. But yeah, so something else I wanted to, you know, since we're talking about all this, you know, you're seeing so much representation when it comes to, you know, Asian Americans and, you know, just people of color in general. And I just want to ask you, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, just seeing it everywhere now, because, growing up, it's like you really didn't see that much of it,
Yeah, I think it's a great question. So I guess what I want to say is, gosh darn it, it's about damn time. Part of what kept me out of the arts for so long is because I just didn't see people who looked like me. And if I did, I would have to pick the one that was kind of the sort of closest to me. Oh, she was brunette, the Disney princess who was brunette, or they're Asian, but they're playing a stereotype. I'm like, so they look like me, but now you're telling me all I can play is somebody who just came off the boat, or like a prostitute, or the goofy sidekick. And, I'm none of those, so what I love about what we're seeing now is it's not just about them being Asian for Asian's sake, or being, brown for being brown's sake. It's about being human and having a story, a lived experience from the lens of having been raised in that culture.
Right.
But it's a human story.
Exactly. And I love that answer. I was just telling one of my friends, going back to Turning Red, how I love that, you have representation with the different girls in the movie, and how, coming up, you would always watch shows or movies, and like you would have a group of guys, and then you had that one girl that was just there for the girls who watched that show. Right. Kind of like how you were just saying, it's just like it's the sidekick, or
they're like the token female.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's like, I guess I gotta be this girl, or stuff like that. Whereas now, like, you're just seeing like all of these interesting characters when it comes to people of color, which is what I love. And I really love that, especially going back to the Disney stuff, that they're doing this. Like, you can see people that look like you. In the movie Soul, there's this one guy, and like he looks just like me, right? And I remember, and Trav got so mad.
I did not get mad.
Trav was hating. Trav was hating. Look, I posted on social media. I was just like, I just want to thank Pixar for, coming to me and wanting to use my likeness in the movie. And I posted this picture, and everybody was just like, oh my God, I can't believe they really put you in the movie. And like, yeah, I thought that was you. Like, and Trav was just like, these people are idiots.
What it is this man's such a trickster, and people continuously fall for it. So that's what makes me just go like, oh, how are they falling for this guy? This man cries wolf all the time, and they still are looking for the wolf.
Oh,
and
no.
wolf's not coming.
So should I be worried that you're going to prank me at any point during this conversation?
No. Because you're cool. You're cool. So it's like, I'm not going to do that. But I don't know. I mean, I guess you could say, similar to how you do improv, I feel like it's the way that you talk. And a lot of times people will tell me that it's like, I could be telling a lie, but it's like, I'm talking just like this, so it sounds so believable. I'm like,
see how he admits that he's a liar?
I'm not a liar, but I tell people this all the time, and I don't really love revealing my secrets. But whenever I'm telling a lie, you can tell somewhere, you can't tell, but there is something in that story that I'll throw in there that makes you think like, huh? Like that doesn't even sound believable at all. So I'm glad that we're right here now, because I want to ask you, like, what made you want to get into improv? I mean, growing up watching Wild and Out, I always thought the improv up there was hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
So like, what was it that made you want to get into improv?
A couple of reasons. One, when I was in high school taking theater, improv was sort of the game they would use to warm us up. And I always loved it. I always had fun playing like freeze tag and stuff. When I started taking voiceover classes, they encouraged us to work on our craft from a lot of different angles, and improv always came up. And so I knew that at some point I was going to go take a class or study comedy and just understand like timing and storytelling and all of that stuff. But I happened to go to school with a guy who he and his wife started an improv theater in Santa Monica, California. And So it was sort of like two birds with one stone. Like I knew I was going to take improv classes, and then they happened to have this school, and I could support their business. And I'm kind of a proponent of, small businesses and supporting your friends' businesses when they have, when they have them, and just, supporting entrepreneurship in general, because what we do as creative people is a business. It's entrepreneurship. And so it was awesome because they had this fledgling school, and I was taking classes and I was loving it. And then that school eventually grew and grew and grew. And now they were bought by another group of comedians, and now they are the West Side Comedy Theater. And so it started off as the West Side Eclectic, and then it became the West Side Comedy Theater. And now they've been in business for 13 years, and I've been part of them, almost since the beginning. But I started off as improv, like just like anything, like I'm just going to take a class and learn the things. And then for me, like, I don't do drugs. This is my drug. Comedy is my drug.
Hey, Pinky's up for that, man. 'Cause I don't do drugs either,
like,
man.
I have a cocktail, but like I just
Exactly.
I choose not to, and so but my drug is comedy. I love it.
Who's your favorite comedian?
Oh gosh, it depends on the day. Honestly, I love Mike Birbiglia's storytelling.
He's so good.
It's just spot on. It's so
and the way
good.
he talks too, like it adds to it,
Mhm.
the voice behind it. Yeah.
Yep. And there's a Canadian, I think she's British Canadian comic. I think her name is Catherine Ryan. I might be misquoting, so, but she has a couple of specials on Netflix, and I think her comedy is really fun because she talks about being sort of cross-cultural, and she has a kid she's being raised in Great Britain, so she's basically an English kid. And so there's that like dichotomy of being basically the immigrant mom of a native kid, and like all of the conflict that comes with that.
Right.
So yeah, there's a few comedians. I have like a whole thread on Netflix of comedy specials, but I also love John Oliver's comedy and Trevor Noah, and how people can take real events and serious ones, and they're still factually correct, but they are hilariously delivered.
Right.
Yeah, I think Trevor Noah was a good choice to replace Jon Stewart.
He's doing an excellent job.
Yeah, he's doing phenomenal. And like you said, like he'll just be talking, and like the stuff that he's saying, he's using, like, it's kind of like how I was just saying earlier, how like I'll be telling a story and there's something in it where it's like a lie so that you'll know. Like Trevor Noah, he'll be telling a story, but there's comedy in it. And like that's one of the things that I love about him. I wanted to ask you, not ask you, but I was going to bring up, because we've interviewed a couple of improv voice actors before. We interviewed Alex May, and we interviewed Ethan Gallardo. And I just think that it's cool that we've had the opportunity to interview voice actors who do improv, and then like you're still doing it, because I feel like it's one of those things where you're constantly always learning, and then you can bring that stuff over into, whether you're acting on screen or if you're acting behind the mic. I think that plays a big part, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. Improv is a great skill to have, and so is stand-up comedy, depending on what angle you take it from. And back to our earlier question, I forgot to add, Amber Ruffin is killing it out there. I don't know if you guys watch her, but she has like a late night talk show, and I love her monologues.
On cable?
I think she's on Peacock. Don't quote me, but she'll post her stuff on like TikTok or Instagram, and I'll catch them there. And man, she is spot on. She's smart. She's funny. She's had a couple of really excellent monologues during this pandemic time that are just like they catch you in the feels in all the right ways. But back to the improv thing. So, when I talk to people who work in corporate America, or, who are not actors and not performers, I always say, like, if you can only afford one class, take an improv class, because it's a skill that you use everywhere.
Right.
And the thing that I love about improv is when we were born, nobody gave us a script. I wish I had one. It would be awesome. Right. But because we don't have a script, we're constantly making things up on the fly.
Yep.
And so improv is just putting conscious thought around how we make stuff up on the fly. And so it's so great for, like, if you work in an office environment, if you give presentations all the time, you know, if you're just trying to like sell through your ideas, you know, whether you're actually in sales or you're in marketing or you're in engineering, and you're trying to get people to buy into your ideas. And then, you know, as an actor, it's so great because writers create these incredible worlds for us and give us these wonderful things to say. But sometimes as an actor, you also feel like, oh, okay, I know this character. I know who she is. I feel like this is something she might do or say. And so you can add like a little laugh or a little, you know, little something, or put a little button on a thought that is still perfectly in line with the character.
Right.
But also builds on and adds to what has already been created. And, you know, it's up to the directors and engineers and stuff, the editors, if they're going to use it or not, but at least it's there and you're able to add and to collaborate.
Yeah. You know, to piggyback off of that, I feel like, I mean, what we do is kind of like improv, because a lot of times people, they always ask us ahead of time, like, well, what questions are you guys going to ask? And we're just like, hey, for real, we just wing it. And we always do a really good job. And I think that that's a natural talent that we have. And then plus, you know, Trav, I'm about to say it, I'm a professional wrestler, and
Right, he is.
I'm one of those type of wrestlers where it's like, I don't like to go off a script or anything like that. Like, if they give me a microphone, like, I'm just going to say what I need to say. And the people, they always believe me when I say what I say. And I feel like it's, you know, improv goes into that. I wish that maybe I should get into improv. I mean, I've done stand-up comedy before, and I just love the fact that you're a character. You know, somebody in the crowd says, hey, I want you to be this character. And then it's just like, you have to think on the fly of what you're going to say, what you're going to do. And you have to make everybody in the audience believe what you're saying, because if you don't, then you lose them. And then it's just like, you got to start back over from the drawing board. And I always feel like that I would never want to be in a wrestling ring cutting a promo, and then the people in the crowd are just like, I don't believe anything this guy is saying. And
they're giving you the stink face.
Yeah, I've seen that happen to people where it's just like they're just talking on the mic, and I'm just I'm sitting there in the back. I'm just like, what is this guy talking about?
Right. See, and it's clear though, you two have a really good rapport, so you know it comes across on screen, and
we're the
you know,
best of buddies.
There you go.
I would.
Then it makes it fun, and it's fun to just kind of collaborate and build on the points that were said. There's been a lot of piggybacking here.
Hey, she said the word. Hey, where's the couch?
I'm telling you, we need the Pee Wee Herman.
That I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, we don't have the couch or no helicopters flying or anything.
We need an upgrade.
Where's the cowboy at? I mean, like,
what? One thing I do want to go back on is I don't know if you've seen what's the show with Ronnie Chang we've been Scissor 7.
Scissor 7.
So
I haven't seen that.
Oh my god, it's so good. But Ronnie Chang does the main guy. Have you seen his stand up?
I've seen he had one special like last year. I think he has a new one out right now.
He has a new one out now, and he's one of my favorite comedians out right now. He is so hilarious, but a lot of stuff he talks about is like Asian tropes and just, you know, coming over here from Malaysia and being in America, and then, you know, doing Crazy Rich Asians and how his career's taken off and stuff like that. So definitely check out his new special, because it is insanely hilarious.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to put that in my queue, because he's definitely one that I enjoy watching.
Yeah, I mean because he was in Shang-Chi as well. I didn't know he was going to be in that.
He's the club owner.
Yep.
And that's another movie. It's one of those things where it's just like, I saw the trailer. Like I said, I don't watch the trailer for everything, but I watched the trailer for that, and I was just like, all right, like, this looks dope. I mean, because I feel like you know, coming up, we had a lot of martial arts films and stuff like that, and I kind of feel like what's the word I'm looking for? It kind of got old after a while. You know, if that makes any sense, and they kind of died out. But it's cool. What were you about to say, Trav?
I was saying not to me. I love kung fu movies. I hate calling them
love
kung fu movies, but what's it called?
like martial
I love
arts.
I love martial arts movies. You know, I love Jackie Chan and Jet Li.
Of course.
Oh my God, they were incredible.
Sure.
Yeah, Jackie Chan.
Jackie Chan was supposed to be in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
He was.
Oh, really?
They couldn't get him to do it.
He would have been perfect for that movie.
It was just too much. I guess he was just playing the character. I don't want to give too much away. It was just too much. He was like, I'm good. You know, I'm 80 some years old. I'm good.
I mean,
bro,
the man is probably still doing his own stunts.
Exactly.
That was and see, I used to love, like, after watching his films, and like they would show all of the
bloopers.
Oh my God.
and him doing his stunts and everything. And I don't know. I mean, one of my favorite bloopers was Rush Hour 2, when the guy fell off of the building and Chris Tucker. He was just like, damn, he ain't gonna be a Rush Hour 3. Like, that was like, I don't know why I love that as a kid.
My favorite blooper from that was when they're at the casino. Jackie Chan has this crazy stunt where the lady that does the cash, you know, it's like a cage type thing with this little hole, and he runs up and he swoops right through it, and one of the bloopers, his leg hit the thing, so like half his body went through. But the fact that he could do that stuff is just insane. And I think they said he broke like 90 bones throughout his whole career.
That would not be surprised.
You know, it's just
that's hey,
respect.
but I mean, the man, he can still. I'm sure he can still go. Like, they saying that Rush Hour 4 is still coming, and and when it comes, like, I'm gonna be excited. Hey, Lethal Weapon 5 is supposed to be coming out too, so I'm all hyped for that. But now I want to get back to, you know, asking some voice acting questions, and I want to ask you, like, how was it when you got your first voice acting gig? Like, how was the feeling? Were you nervous? Were you just like, hey, I got this, I'm ready to go? Like, let's talk about that.
Ooh, that's such a good question.
Thank you.
Okay. First voice acting gig. So the first like professional gig I remember getting was for an online demo. It was like for like a startup that had to do with dentistry. You know, you got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
But it's so exciting, I think, especially when you're first beginning, to get that very first paycheck. Because it's a proof of concept. Like, oh, I've done all of this work. I've been studying really hard, and now I booked this thing. And now, like, it's like, oh, I'm real. I'm a professional now. And so that was like the moment that I felt like I had turned pro. And then, you know, shortly after that, I booked a commercial, and I got to go into a studio and, you know, record it. This is in the pre-pandemic times when we used to people. So I went into a studio and I got to record behind the glass, and, you know, there's director on the other side and the whole thing. And so I got the whole experience of what I had been experiencing in class, but as a professional. And then, you know, when the commercial finally aired, it was like a montage of voices. So mine was mixed in with a bunch of other voices. So I'm just like listening. I'm like, where's my voice? Oh, there she is. Like, it was exciting. So, you know, and I still get that feeling about those first gigs, because to me, that's when I turned pro.
right.
That was that feeling of like, oh, okay, this is a thing that I could do. I can do. I am doing it. And, you know, you always have that in the back of your head of like, oh, that feeling. Like, you don't want to let go of that, because I feel like if you forget that feeling of like of joy and discovery, you stop learning.
Absolutely.
I 100% agree with you on that. I mean,
100% agree.
I feel like, because I mean, it's something that we always say about with wrestling. It's just like, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. It's always something new that you can learn by going to practice, or, you know, just being at a show. Like, and like that's one of the cool things about wrestling on the indies, because you can try and experiment like with different moves at different companies and whatnot, see if it works there, like see if it got a reaction, and then if it didn't get a reaction, then you can just cut it out of your arsenal. And I just think that I mean, it's the same thing with voice acting. It's a revolving door. Like, you're always constantly learning new stuff. It may be something small that you are not doing. And it's something that you had mentioned earlier, where because I was taking voice acting classes with Matthew David Rudd. I always give him a shout out. Make sure that you go and watch or listen to his episode. And one of the things that he was telling me, because when it comes to using that exclamation mark, and sometimes it's just like you have to be loud with it. Sometimes it's just like you have to be louder with it because you don't know what that exclamation mark is going to be. So I just love like going to his class and always learning something new. And it could be something tiny, but it's just like, dang, like that small bit of information goes a long way. And then also too, we interviewed Ken Forey, and one of the pieces of advice that he had gave me was whenever you read a book or when you read in general, just always read aloud. So that way it's just like you're practicing. And then when you do get behind the mic and you're recording, it's like, because you're constantly reading aloud and whatnot, you're going to be better when you do the voice acting stuff. I'm sorry.
It's very much, no, you're great. It's about building that muscle memory and practicing. And, you said it really well. Every time you practice, you kind of work on a different skill. And then later on, you've incorporated all of that into your muscle memory.
Yep.
So then you can kind of pull, pick and choose what works well in that moment. And it might work, differently in a different moment with a different opponent, but you kind of pick and choose. And all we're doing is building our arsenal.
Exactly. So I have another question, but I wanted to pass the ball to Trav before I ask this one. So Trav, go ahead.
All right. I just want to make one comment on the subject we were just talking about. I think that anybody in the arts field, doesn't matter what you're doing, everybody respects the other like you get painters, digital drawers, wrestlers, I'm a mix engineer, voice actors, regular actors, on camera, whatever it is, you have your little circle of the specific field, but everybody in the arts respects everybody's grind, because it's so hard and so tedious. No matter if you work and you have to make the money on your own for a living, you respect everybody who does it, because it's a daily grind of getting up. And
that is the game recognizes game.
Yeah. How am I going to make my money today?
Right. And that your skill set is complementary to mine, not in opposition to.
Right.
We're all building the same piece of art together.
So
Absolutely.
The question, Trav, you didn't ask.
No, you can go on.
Okay, all right. So so I was just going to bring up, because it's like you've done voice acting work in video games, and then you've done some voice acting work in anime and then live action series. So I wanted to ask you, which one is the easiest and which one is the hardest?
Ooh, that depends on the day.
I love how it always depends on the day.
Because it's true, right? I feel like, I don't know if it's easier or harder. I think every project has its challenges and it has its things that you just love about it. And it really depends from project to project. And it doesn't matter if it's anime or if it's dubbing or if it's a video game or even if it's a commercial. Every different subgenre, every project, they all have their little dynamics. They have different people who are involved and different clients that you need to make happy and appease. Some days are just easier than others because the words just flow off the tongue and you get to have fun, and the people on the other side of the glass are right there with you. They're tracking with you and we're all having a good time and it's like a party. Sometimes, people are pressed and they're stressed and, they don't like what they're hearing the first time or the first 3 times or the first 32 times. And you just have to be okay. All right, I'm going to be here until we have 47 takes in the can. And so what it's really about is just mindset and just, leaning on all that training that we were just talking about, leaning on all your training, leaning on all that muscle memory, and then having that mindset to be like, okay, we didn't get this take. My mouth just decided it did not want to say those words. We're going to take a second, reset ourselves, go do it again. No apologies, no feeling bad about it. We're professionals here. We're just going to do the things. And sometimes it's just like you're working so well and so fun and so fast that you look at the clock and you're like, wait, we're done? I could go for 4 more hours. It depends. I'm like, I hate to sound wishy-washy, but that's the truth.
No, I totally understand where you're coming from. I mean, it's the same thing like whenever I go to wrestling practice and then you just like, what we're already done, or even like this. I'll be at the gym for like 3 to 4 hours sometimes, and people are just like, how can you be there that long? Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, I didn't even know that.
You're in your flow. You're in the zone.
Yeah, I'm just listening to Four Town and like, no, I'm being serious.
No, he's being serious.
I'm like, whenever Four Town starts playing on my playlist, like I start singing and dancing at the gym.
I love it.
I don't care who sees me or whatnot. I mean, anyway, I mean, I run the gym that I go to anyway. And Trav, I didn't tell you this, but I want to say it was the other day I was working out and some dude, he had stopped me in my tracks and he was just like, hey man, do you mind helping me with my form and making sure that I'm doing it right? And I was like, sure. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, I always see you in here. And it's just like, I've been wanting to ask you for advice because it's like, you're always in here and like, you look like you know what you're doing. And mm-hmm. This is just me thinking, I'm just like, I really need to become a personal trainer because it's just like, I do know what I'm doing and I run this gym. So
absolutely.
I totally get where you're coming from. Now, one thing I wanted to ask you is because this was an anime that came out on Netflix. I want to say it was last year and it was Trese.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. We did a review for it. And
oh, yay.
I want to say that review, like it got high numbers when we did it on YouTube. I always feel like, the stuff that may not be mainstream, like those always do really well because people just like, oh, wow, like I'm surprised somebody did a review for that. And, I think it's awesome that you were on that show. And, mm-hmm. Earlier we were just talking about the representation and everything. Mm-hmm. So how was it working on that show?
Oh man, that was a project that like I didn't have any expectations going in. I didn't know what it was. But I remember when I got the auditions and all of the characters were Filipino, I was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. I don't know what this is, but it's like there are Filipinos. There are people who look like me and sound like me or, sound like my parents or my Lola or, and that they're Filipino specifically and not like Chinese people who are played by Filipinos or, Vietnamese folks who happen to be played by Filipinos. Like they're Filipino. Mm-hmm. It's their experience. And then, when I booked the gig and we got in the room and, it was produced by Jay Oliva and,
love Jay Olivia.
He's so good. He's so good. And, and the content comes from Budget Tan and he's a Filipino graphic artist, and it's about supernatural stories that Filipino kids grow up hearing. It's our version of the boogeyman. Mm-hmm. And so it was very cool just to be a part of that project. Even, in the part that I had, like, they're not huge roles or anything, but I'm super proud to have been a part of it because it's part of this big thing of like, these are Filipino stories. I get to be a part of this, and it was the first, let me see if I say this right. It was the first Filipino anime for Netflix that was produced outside, like specifically for a global audience, not just for the Philippines.
Yep. Mm-hmm. You're right on that.
So I need to be accurate with those facts.
hey, that's what we're here for. I remember, because people were talking about it on Facebook and like how you had just said, it was like one of the first of its kind. So that was something that really made me want to watch it. And I was disappointed that it was only 6 episodes. And I need to get a season 2 because it was so good.
It's so good. And they set up a cliffhanger.
Exactly. Right. And then it's just like, I didn't know that it was based off of a comic. And it's like, I want to check this out. I want to learn more about these characters and whatnot, because like you said, it's a supernatural show. And if you love like because it kind of had elements from the Supernatural TV show, and if you love Supernatural, then you'll love this show. It's just more
it's like a darker version of Buffy.
That too, yeah. So no, I think it's awesome that you got to be a part of that. And even it doesn't matter how big or small the role is. It's just being a part of something.
It was just,
Right.
I mean, it was such a huge honor to be invited to play in this and to work with, at least tertiarily, because we all recorded separately, so many amazing actors, some of whom I know and admire, and some of whom I just admire from afar. And then, I got to play the young version of the twins. And then I recently got to meet Griffin, who are the Kumbal. Nice. And so I was like, hey, I'm little you.
That's always awesome. I know we had somebody up here before who played a younger version of somebody, and like they had like the same experience where it's just like they met the older version of that person. And it's just like, like, hey, I voiced you. And now I want to ask you, because I had asked Stephanie Sutherland this when we had interviewed her, and she had
also a phenomenal human.
Oh, for sure. Hey, I owe her breadsticks. I owe everybody. Cool. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna owe you breadsticks too. I owe everybody breadsticks. But you guys have been going to conventions, and like now we can jump into the Genshin Impact talk. Like how has it been? Just going to these conventions and seeing how big this fandom is, because Genshin Impact it's a huge fandom, a huge game. I was just interviewing a cosplayer the other day, and they were just talking about one of the things they love about Genshin is how the world is always expanding, and they love this game. So like, how is it experiencing the fandom online and then meeting them at person at these cons?
It's a great question. Because Yamiko just came out, and she came out during the pandemic, I really haven't had the chance to go to cons and like experience the fandom that way. I did get to peek in a little bit at like Anime Los Angeles, and I just wandered around the floor at WonderCon, but it's not, it's a different experience. What I will say is, when I was finally able to announce the character, the welcome was so warm and effusive. It was almost like, whoa, like, thank you. Where did you all come from? I knew about the fandom, and I knew about the game because Stephanie and many friends of mine, Brittany, are all characters. They have established characters in the game. And for me, it's celebratory because I'm just like, oh my God, another friend is in this game. This is amazing. And so I've just been happy to cheer along my friends and to see, them get to go and visit with fans and go see things and do things. And also just to be these really cool characters, because that's the stuff. And so when I was able to announce Yamiko, the fandom, just blessed. They're just so lovely and, have been so warm and welcoming. I just posted something today. I checked my Instagram. I hadn't looked at it in a while. And I checked the little tagged pictures area. And there was just floods of fan art and cosplays that I had been tagged in. I just hadn't seen. And so, if you're watching this and you're wondering why I haven't responded to your Instagram tag, it's because I didn't see it until today. So please forgive me. I will get there and get to just gush and fangirl over your work, because there's just some amazing fan art. There's amazing cosplay. There's so many people who are paying such incredible attention to detail. I don't know where you get it, because I'm like something, a bell rings somewhere and I'm like, oh, something shiny. So I'm super excited. And then, now that the world has started to open back up, I'm hopeful that I'll get to do a little bit of traveling and go to some cons and visit with people and get to meet the fans up close and personal. And if we can't hug, at least we can sort of high five, fist bump, elbow bump. I don't know what we're doing right now.
I miss the elbow. Bring the elbow back.
The awkward elbow bump, like, hey, dude, what's up?
No, I think that's going to be awesome. I mean, because it's like when you go to these cons and then, you have so many people waiting in line just to meet you and tell you that I love your character. I love your voice. It's, I mentioned this before, how growing up, you would hear a voice actor in anime, and then it's just like you're hearing that voice, like it could motivate you. I mean, this is something, My Hero Academia, for example. When I first started my fitness journey, it's like I was going to the gym and whatnot, but then like watching My Hero Academia and then hearing, Deku, and the voice actor who voices him, Justin. And I was just like, man, like just hearing him speak is very motivating and it's inspiring. So it's like when you go to your convention and like you have this long line of people and like you're gonna hear like all this awesome stuff from these fans, and they're gonna have the fan art. They're gonna you're gonna see cosplayers dressed as, you know, a character that you're voicing. It's gonna be an awesome moment, man.
I mean, I can't wait. I can't wait to meet everybody in person. Like peopling again is just like mind blowing. You know, and I don't take any of this for granted because I know what a wonderful privilege this is. So I'm just super grateful. And, you know, I love Yai Miko as a character. She's been so much fun to get to know over these past months and I don't know, years, you know, since I first got to meet her. And so I've been really excited to hear how people would react, because when they released her, they didn't announce the voice actors.
Yeah.
And so she's just been hanging out in the periphery for a while. And then it was a lot of fun to just kind of like, occasionally I'd like see comments or, you know, people would speculate and I'm like, okay, all right, it's cool. And then they got to do the announcement and I went, okay, cool. I get to say things now. I can talk.
Hey, those NDAs, you gotta.
You know what? They are to be respected.
Exactly. and I know, like I've seen stuff on Twitter before where it's like somebody, they may watch a trailer and they'll hear a voice. Like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stone Ocean, when it was announced, the trailer came out, and Kira Buckland, who voices Jolene, it's like she didn't announce that, you know, she voiced Jolene, but I remember Trav, he had told me, he was just like, yeah, man, it's like it's her, you know, but you can't say anything because you don't want to get in trouble. And I just think it's awesome when you can recognize a voice and it's just like, yo, like that's so awesome, because we had just interviewed her and one of the questions,
how fun.
Right.
Yeah, and one of the questions that I had asked her was, because she's a huge, I don't know if you've ever met her or if
I
you
met
know
her a couple times. Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice, awesome. Like she's a huge JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan.
Yeah,
she's done voiceover work in the series before, and I had asked her, you know, like, what would it mean to you if you could voice Jolene? And, you know, she talked about it. And then when she finally could announce, like, I was so happy for her, because that's just one of those things where it's just like, I got into voice acting so one day I could voice this character, and now I'm doing it. So I want to ask you.
I was so stoked for her.
It's an awesome feeling. So I want to ask you, like, is there anime or cartoon, something that is currently out now or something that you grew up watching and you hope one day gets, not something you grew up watching, but it could be something you grew up watching and it gets a revival or something like that. Is there a character that you've always wanted to voice? And let me know who that might be. This is a hard question too.
It's a great question though. So they did a reboot of the Animaniacs. I think if I ever got the call to do anything like Garbage Can Number 2, you know, Pigeon 47, I don't care. I would jump at it. I love that show. That was one of the shows that kind of, you know, pointed me towards voiceover. Because I grew up, like, you know, I was raised by television and my parents. So I watched a lot of the old school Looney Tunes, and, you know, Mel Blanc and June Foray were like, that was like the mother and father of voiceover to me. And then they did all of those like Steven Spielberg, Amblin cartoons in the 90s, and the Animaniacs were like,
so good.
Oh, they're so good. And so when they did the reboot, I was just like, oh God, please, if I ever.
Hey, well, you're speaking it into existence right now, though. I mean, like, you never know what's going to happen. And like, that's one of the cool things about voice acting, is that the sky is the limit, really.
Absolutely.
I mean, like, you just never know. And like you have an agent and whatnot. And if the opportunity comes, it's kind of like one of our good friends of the podcast, Renes Rivera. You know, he was in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And, you know, when he had got that call that it's just like, hey, they want to use you, like, he didn't believe it at first. He was like, are you being for real? And we were so happy when we saw Renes on the show, because It's like he's a growing actor, and I can't wait to meet him too. I'm going to New York to see Beetlejuice on Broadway.
Nice.
And, I'm gonna be meeting a bunch of actors that we interviewed, a bunch of voice actors. They probably gonna jump me because I owe everybody breadsticks, though.
I mean, you just go post up in an Olive Garden and keep them coming.
Because it's like, when you're here on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks, and I haven't said this line in a while, you're family. So it's just like, that's why I owe everybody breadsticks.
I love it.
But Trav, I wanted to pass the ball to you because it's like, you know me.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I can keep going on, but go ahead, Trav.
Well, I got a couple piggybacks, but first I want to say before we get too far away from the Genshin Impact was we had heard from someone, I can't remember who it was, but the director had said that they don't choose the voice actors, the character does, because everybody talks about how perfect the voices are for the character. Like when you imagine what the character would sound like when you see the picture, it's that, you know what I mean? So I think that's what gives that franchise this like special feeling and fan base, was there's just something special about it, the way it's just being created and processed. And
that's a great way to put it. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. I just saw Jenny Yokobori, and she's the voice of Yoimiya. Yeah. And, I think it's amazing. First of all, when I heard her as Yoimiya, I was like, oh yeah, there's nobody else that could play this. And then she said at one point she had been a pyrotechnician.
Right. That's crazy.
And I was like, oh yeah, there's nobody else who could have played this role. But I think that's wonderful that he said that, because I think it's true. I mean, I'm not going to speak for myself, but I know listening to my friends in their roles, I just think they're perfect.
Mm-hmm. And something else I wanted to bring up earlier, we were talking about, being in the studio versus, with the pandemic. Have you been back to the studio yet or no?
Here and there, there was a small minute when we all tried to reopen the world. This was, I think, somewhere between Delta and Omicron. I don't know. Name a Greek letter. We were somewhere
One
there.
Of those Transformers.
Right? Michael Bay sequel number what?
Yeah.
So we were going back into studio here and there. And so I would do as much as I can in studio. And then, I'm fortunate that I have this setup here in my house, so I can work from home as well. But I would just say we're like most people these days, we're in a hybrid work situation.
Right. Yeah, I want to bring up, and not to get like too emotional or inspirational or anything like that, but how long do you think it kind of took for you, like when you were working with somebody, for them to point out things that they quote unquote didn't like that you were doing, and to separate it from taking it personal to trying to get the best out of you? Because I feel like that's something that a lot of people struggle with, and probably something that people struggle with early into their career, not even just voice acting, but I know like when I work with singers or like rappers or something, and I'm like, that's not it. Sometimes they get real down on themselves, and was that something that you struggled with, or?
Yes and no. And here's why I'll say that. I think when I worked in corporate life, I really disliked getting feedback. And, they have very corporate ways of doing it, 360 degrees, all these crazy surveys. They ask all of your coworkers to talk about you behind your back, and then they tell you, what they said to your face. Right. And sometimes it was hard to hear that feedback. And it took me a while, I think, to not take it personally, like to decide like some of this stuff has merit and I definitely need to work on it. And then some of this stuff is just garbage, it's opinion. And so I can't use this. And then when I started taking acting classes, a teacher I had very early on said about the audition process that it is about selection and not rejection. And so if you think about it all in that way, people are trying to choose so that we can all do a job and be done with the job and move on to the next job. It's not a personal thing. They're not trying to like kick you while you're down or make you feel terrible or whatever. It's just about getting the job done in that moment of time that we have. And so I feel like it was easier for me not to take the feedback to heart.
Right.
there were definitely times when, you know, somebody would give me feedback and I'd be on like take after take after take, and I just wasn't feeling like I was getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have that moment of, oh my God, I'm gonna get fired, or I'm never gonna work again, you know. And then you have to go back and like, okay, wait, take a breath, whew, you know, reset yourself, remind yourself, like back to that earlier discussion. Your training, you rise or fall to the level of your training. So I have to go back to my training and trust that I have trained enough that this thing is going to be whatever it's going to be fine. Mm-hmm. And I will take the notes that I need to take, and whatever I'm not getting, either it's not going to be useful for this, or, you know, maybe it's going to cause them to make another choice. But in any of those cases, it's not about me. Mm-hmm. But I will know that I have brought my full self to the table. I have done everything that I can possibly do to make this copy do what it needs to do. And then I can open the door to this booth and leave and feel like I left it all on the mic.
Yeah, because I think as like human beings, most of us at least, I know there is some people that don't care. I think we really care about being liked. Like, absolutely. I'll openly admit when somebody like doesn't like me, it really bothers me, even though I act like it don't. Like, it really upsets me.
Yeah.
So
no, I get that.
Yeah, I just think it's just one of those things. It's kind of like, it's just, you're not that person's cup of tea.
Yeah.
You know? And like for me, Ben Affleck's,
dude,
Ben Affleck's one of my favorite actors, and he might be one of the most hated actors of all time. You know, there was a few years where people really were dogging Nicolas Cage, if y'all remember.
Oh, I remember that.
And he was doing a lot of straight, and now he's so beloved again, you know?
Yeah.
So
everybody has their season.
Yes,
yeah, everybody has their season.
Yep.
I like that.
I just know, you know, something that I like to tell myself whenever there's somebody that may not like me or something, I just don't take it personal, because at the end of the day, you know, like Ratana just said, it's, you know, you're not always going to be somebody's cup of tea, and you just got to keep it moving. It's like, you can't sit there and dwell on somebody not liking you, because you could do everything in your power to make this person like you. And it's just like, you'll be trying all the time, and it's just like, yeah, I don't care. They don't care. You know? It's like,
and you know, the lesson is like, you know, and this took a long time for me to learn. It's not about me per se, and that, you know, all I can do is bring my best to the table, and then everything else is how I react to the situation. You know, so if I'm trying really hard to please you and like make you like me, and it's just not working, and I'm like, why? You know, if I take that to heart, like, that's just going to do me a world of hurt for a long time, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and that doesn't serve me, and then I cannot serve, you know, my other clients, or, you know, my friends or my family, because I'm too busy worrying that I hurt this one person who probably left and did not care afterwards.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, I don't want to, you know, I'm gonna go into it, but we don't really talk about relationship advice up here and stuff like that. I mean, we did have one episode where we talked about it, but anyway, you know, I've just always told people, it's just like, you know, if you break up with somebody, or somebody breaks up with you, you can't sit there and dwell over that person, because it's like that person has already moved on with their life, and you know, you just sitting here dwelling over it, while it may be hard, it's like you have to continue to move on too, because it's just like, you can grow from that, you can learn from that. And I always feel that, you know, the people who have always gone through bad situations, they always have the best comeback stories, and you just gotta keep on pushing forward.
You gotta keep on going. It just like Nemo, you keep on swimming.
Exactly.
Or sorry, was that Dory?
Yeah, that was Dory. Yeah, I mean, like, what I always just say, go beyond plus ultra. That's what I always say.
That's what he always says.
That's what I always say. Trav, do you have any more questions? Because I only got two more, and we can wrap this.
Not really a question, just something I want to bring up. So I'm like, what I really love about animation is how emotional they get. Like, I'm just a sucker for it, you know. And a lot of the Japanese animation movies are really like, they're emotional stories being told. And when you were in words bubble up like soda pop, me and our other co-host D, you know, we really, really enjoy that movie. I love stuff like that. And I I don't know what you would really call this, like coming of age type of.
It was so
slice of
sweet.
life.
Yeah.
It's just such a sweet movie and super emotional. Yeah, you're gonna cry watching it. And how was it like getting on projects like that where there's like a real emotional investment into the story?
I mean, that's an actor's dream, right? Just to be able to like sink your teeth into something that's like emotionally meaty. And you know, I'm just a very small piece in their puzzle. So I'm just there to help kind of further the story. But when I saw the full piece, it's very sweet. It's like you said, like coming of age, like kind of teenage relationship, you know, in that sort of way that we're all awkward and shy. So I feel like there's something for everybody to just kind of to connect to. But, you know, I think one of the best parts about like any project like that is when you get to just to tell a story, you know, and really just sink into that truth and be able to communicate it, you know, whether it's supernatural horror or a teenage love story or, you know, something in between.
I 100% agree with you on that.
100%.
I 100% agree with everybody on. Well, not everybody, but
not everybody. But when he agrees, it's 100%.
Yeah, it's 100%. It's not, because you never want to say 50% because 50% is only half. You always want to say 100%.
My man don't half-ass nothing.
Exactly. I want it full. So, you know, the next question that I wanted to ask you is, you know, when you're not acting, what are some of the hobbies that you enjoy doing?
Oh man. Some of them are like before time hobbies. So I used to be a marathon runner. I'm retired now.
Wow.
But I still like to, you know, go for a jog and like be outside and active. You know, and I love dancing. So my initial kind of performing life thing was dancing. You know, salsa dancing and tango dancing and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I do. And nowadays, I'm home hanging out with the puppy and just kind of doing my thing. I love to read, you know, so because puppy and I do our little walks together now. So I have my little book on tape and my little Audible. And then we take our time walking
adventure.
Down. That's right. We go on a little adventure. And then,
what do you like to read?
So I'm a nerd. Just
And
in case that wasn't clear. I'm a nerd in a lot of realms. So I tend to read a lot of nonfiction. I really like learning about how we think and how we behave. And I love learning about business and how people create their businesses and how they fail at their business, and what they do to come back from failure. So I read things like, right now I'm reading rereading Creativity Inc. by Ed Catmull, who was the head of Pixar. So it's basically his sort of business memoir about how they built Pixar up from nothing. It was basically an offshoot of Lucasfilms, and how they grew it into what it is now. And he sort of breaks down what he thinks are the key pieces that encourage creativity in teams. So like I said, nerd.
That's interesting. I never knew that.
Yeah, it's a great read. Highly recommended if you're into that kind of thing. You know, and as an actor, like I talk about mindset a lot, especially when I'm teaching. And so there's a book by Carol Dweck called Mindset, and it gets taught a lot, you know, to like psychology students and stuff. Like I said, giant nerd. Sorry.
I wish I was into that kind of stuff.
But yeah, so that's what I tend to read. So I actually look to my friends who read fiction to cleanse my palate. And I'm like, I'm reading too many brainy things, like cerebral things. I need to like disappear into a world. And so they'll give me their recommendations. And I love that, because then I will read genres that I don't normally touch.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's great, because then you just start to like connect all of the dots.
Mm-hmm. And it's a giant universe. I mean, I agree with you on that. And I just think that it's always interesting. I mean, because, you know, whether it's reading a book or watching a TV show or watching a movie, it's like when you get recommended something that's out of your normal realm of what you watch or read, it's like you're always surprised. And kind of like how Trav was saying earlier about World's Bubble Up Like Soda Pop, that's still a movie that I need to see. But when it comes to like those sad anime movies, man, it's like they always get me. There was one that I had watched on Netflix called A Silent Voice. And
oh my god, that's
I haven't seen that one yet.
Get the tissues.
Yeah, get the tissues because it's really sad. And I'm just like, this is.
I'm gonna have to save that for a day when I need an ugly cry.
It's a hard watch.
It is a hard watch. It's like
it's not one you're gonna watch again
exactly
soon after watching it.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, it's a good movie, but it's a sad movie. It's a messed up movie. And it's one of those movies you only watch one time. Like you don't watch that just because of how emotional it is. And it's I don't want to give too many spoilers away, but yeah, watch it. And then I'll slide in the DMs one day and I'll be like, hey, did you ever watch it? And he's like, yes.
Right. Mascara running.
So now we're here at the end of the interview. Trav, did you have any more questions before we wrap it up?
No questions. Just if you're also looking for another tearjerker, The Fallout on HBO Max. Jenna Ortega is in it. It was a film festival movie from 2021. It came out 2022.
Oh, nice.
About a group of people dealing with their PTSD from surviving a school shooting.
Oh, man.
It is brutal. It is a very, very good movie, but a one-time watch. I will not be watching that movie again anytime soon.
I feel like we need to also add things that make us joyful, because otherwise we're all gonna leave this interview depressed. Yeah. I speak for myself when I say that, but not because of you guys, because sad movies.
No, I totally understand. I'm trying to think of a joyful movie. Remember the Titan. There you go. That movie.
Oh, that's a great one.
I feel like I just watch so much horror movies. I don't know how joyful they make me joyful, but I
love that. There is no judgment on what causes joy. If it makes you happy, it makes you happy.
That's true. I know. To piggyback off of what Trav just said, if D was here right now, he always finishes the interview asking his famous 2 questions. And starting off with the first one, what is something that scared you when you were younger? Horror movie, a sound, music, something like that. This is always an interesting question because you're always surprised with what the guest says. But what is something that scared you when you were younger or still scares you to this day? For me, it's water bugs. So
water bugs. Ugh. I don't like bugs in general. That's why I failed at Animal Crossing. So, okay, what scared me when I was younger, there's a scene in one of the Indiana Jones, I can't remember which, where they go into this cave and there's fire and people's faces are melting.
I know what you're about to say.
And I can't watch that scene. And even now, we have modern CGI. There's probably lots more photoreal ways to make it look really gory. Yeah. But that was nightmare fuel for me. Still can't watch it.
I know exactly what scene you're talking about.
Ain't that Temple of Doom?
Yeah. I think it is. Yeah.
With the kid and the heart and all. I was just I remember being a kid seeing that scene and I was just like, is this real?
I remember just thinking how awesome it was, and here, for you, it just traumatized you.
Yeah, that traumatized me, and the first Ghostbusters movie when it's they're in the library, and then the ghost librarian, she keeps on saying shh, and then they get up on her, and then she turns into a monster. I remember watching that with my granddad, and he just laughed at me because of how scared I was.
Because how scared you were.
Yeah, because how scared I was. But it's it took a long time for me to finally just say, okay, I can watch this scene. But whenever I would watch Ghostbusters, there were certain scenes I would just fast forward because I was just I'm not trying to be scared. I mean, it's funny, but I can do it now. I'm good to go now.
He can do it now.
Very proud of you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. So now the second question that D always asks, what is one of your favorite 80s or 90s movies? Or if you want to, you can tell me both.
80s or 90s movies? Gosh, there's a bunch, but I don't know if I'm going to get the right time period. So basically anything Disney.
Okay.
That was I would watch that in loops. The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King, all of those they all have my heart.
16
Candles.
Yeah. Good one.
Okay. John
Like,
Hughes. Okay.
The John Hughes, all of those awkward teenager, angsty romantic comedies.
Yeah, Breakfast Club's one of my favorite movies.
That's a good one. Yeah, I always would like get grossed out when Ali Sheedy would do this.
I mean, you know, you bringing up 16 Candles, it just takes me back to when I was a kid, and you know, TBS on Friday nights, they would show those John Hughes movies.
Yeah.
Didn't they do like a dinner and a movie kind of a deal? Like they had these hosts that tried to make it like a date.
That was FX did the dinner and a movie.
No, TBS did it too. Yeah, bro.
FX used to do them
definitely
too.
Sure. Yeah.
FX used to do it with the guy from Say What Karaoke.
Oh, nice.
I cannot remember his name. If you remember the host of Say What Karaoke.
I do not remember.
And it was another girl.
I just know like a lot of channels were trying to do that, because even Comedy Central, like they did one too where I remember it was like the first one I saw was Forgetting Sarah Marshall. But it's like,
that's a good one.
That's a good movie. And if D was here right now, like I watched that movie with him, because he was, when it came out, he was just talking about like how good of a movie it was. And I'm so mad. What was the guy, like whatever happened to Russell Brand? Like
he was just in Death on the Nile.
Oh, for real?
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. It keeps popping up on my streaming thing. Like, you need to
really
watch
good.
this.
Yeah, you got to see the first one though. Murder on the Orient Express.
Oh, okay. I didn't know they were related.
Yeah, it's a detective movie on like he's kind of like Sherlock Holmes.
Got it.
You know.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, Russell Brand also has like an online talk show.
Okay.
Too, that he does.
Because I feel like, you know, back in 2009, 2010,
get him to the Greek. And...
Yeah, get him to the Greek. Yeah, like he was like this huge star, and then, you know, he's just like the Avatar, man.
Well, what happens? What happens is a lot.
He ended up
guys,
in a brick of ice.
They realize that they don't like Hollywood, so then they exit. Like just like the guy from How I Met Your Mother, Jason
Sudeikis. No, not Jason Sudeikis. No. I know who you're talking about. I'm mad I can't.
But after that show, and he was like, "Dude, I'm set for life. I'm out of here."
He pieced out. I did not know that.
Yeah, and he moved to some like small town. And
I mean, I don't blame him.
Town.
Yeah,
and a lot
Jason
of people.
Segel.
Yeah,
Jason Segel. Yeah.
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 Your boy Steven Seagal. I don't know.
I love you, man. Slap at the bass.
Yeah, he was another one, man. He was in Forgetting Sarah Marshall too. I feel like what are those Judd Apatow films where it's just like you saw like the same recurring people in those.
Yeah, he has like a look. It's like Pixar movies. They always have like a few of the same recurring cast.
Well, he's been with Judd since he was a kid because he was on Freaks and Geeks.
Man, that was a great show.
Yeah, such a good show.
We had some classics back then. But
and Judd, hey, there you go. Judd Apatow's got a new movie called The Bubble on Netflix. I thought it was hilarious. It's not getting the best reviews, but I found it absolutely hilarious. And you should. It's
on my list. I did add it to my list because
it's a feel good movie.
Your boy Keegan Michael Key is in it.
Oh, it's stacked.
He's so good.
Yeah, But yeah, so now we're here at the end of the interview, and right now I just want to let you know you were awesome. Thank you so much for joining us up here. You know, like I said, you're awesome, and I owe you some breadsticks whenever I see you.
I love it. Thank you for having me, Benjamin and Trav. This was awesome. D, we missed you.
We missed you, D.
You and your secret stuff.
Space. He's talking to the moon. He got Bruno Mars up there with him.
I was just thinking that.
It's a good song. It is a really good. I don't know what it is about that song, but it's like I mean, I know that it made a resurgence on TikTok because
it totally did.
Somebody sampled it and like it's like a club beat down, but it's like whenever you hear the original song, I remember I was on the phone with D one day and I was in my truck and like all of a sudden like the car next to me it started playing and I was talking to him and he was like, "Banks, is everything all right?" I was just like, "Yo." Like somebody in the car next to me, they're listening to Talking to the Moon. And he was just like, "Oh, what's that?" And I was like, this guy. Oh, D, I love you, man. But yeah, so Ratana, before we let you go, let everybody in social media land know where they can find you at.
You can find me at Voice of Ratana on pretty much all the socials. So Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all of the things. Sometimes I lurk on Twitch. And other than that, hanging out with you guys. So thank you for having me. This has been so much fun.
Absolutely.
And that's what we love to hear. Trav, let them know where they can find you at in social media land.
That's right. I am on the socials at Instagram at ZK Audio. I'm also on the Twitter at TRAVIOSZK, where I'm also on Letterboxd, ranking and rating my daily movie watches and what I watched this week, man. Everything, everywhere, all at once. 5-star, best film of the year so far. Get Out. I love the Daniels. I love A24. Go see this movie. Banks. Where they gonna find my man at?
Hey, you can find me at Harold Benjamin Banks at @KingBenji_Banks on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on Facebook at Benjamin Banks. That should be the first person to pop up. If not, then I need to contact Mr. Zuckerberg. Ratana, thank you again for joining us. Everybody, thank you for watching and listening to our brand new episode. Make sure you check out some more of our interviews that we have here on the channel, along with reaction videos and reviews, our podcast with the link down below, where we have brand new episodes every Tuesday, and then a video of that episode up here on YouTube on Friday. Like I always say, keep that pinky up, stay positive. We'll see you next time on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Peace. Thank you for watching a brand new episode of Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks. Make sure that you hit that like button and you subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell button so that way you're always notified when we have new content on our channel. Make sure you check out our podcast, where we release new episodes every Tuesday, and the video of that episode is uploaded on Friday. And you can find new episodes of our podcast on all podcast platforms. Make sure you follow all the Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks social media accounts at Leveling Up Banks on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, we have a Patreon. If you're feeling generous and would love to donate to us, it's at Leveling Up Banks. And huge shout out to our patrons. We really appreciate you and thank you for the support. We'll see you next time on Leveling Up with Benjamin Banks.